I wasn't supposed to be home for 2 more weeks. Rangers live on uncertainty, but even I didn't expect the mission to fold. Weather systems stalled over the AO, the intel we were supposed to collect suddenly got downgraded, and the brass pulled the plug. We were halfway back to the airfield before anyone told us why. It didn't matter. The moment I heard R2B, my mind went somewhere else, somewhere quieter. The cabin. I drove the whole way without music, windows cracked to let the pines in. That smell's been the same since I was a boy. Resin, cold dirt, the faint sweetness of moss. My grandfather built the place. My father handed me the keys the week I pinned Sergeant. It's where I go to decompress after deployment, where Becca and I took Ethan for his first Christmas. My one piece of ground no one could take. Or so I thought. The lock turned hard like it hadn't been used in a while. I stepped inside and froze. Something in the air was off. Not bad. Just wrong. The kind of wrong you notice on patrol before you see the tripwire. Becca's perfume, the one she wore to our anniversary dinner last year, hung in the living room. Not faint. Fresh. I set my rifle case against the wall, scanning. The throw blanket on the couch was folded differently, the way I never fold it. The air felt warmer than the thermostat would have left it. Then I saw it. On the kitchen counter, under a sliver of sunlight from the side window, lay a photo strip. The cheap kind you get at a county fair booth. 4 frames, black and white, glossy paper curling at the edges. Frame 1, Becca laughing, head tilted back. Frame 2, part of a man's shoulder in frame, close enough that their hair brushes. Frame 3, her leaning toward him, smiling like no one else existed. Frame 4, their foreheads touching. Like a promise. Like a claim. I didn't breathe until my brain filled in the missing pieces. That jawline. I'd know it anywhere. I'd broken it once when we were teenagers, and he called me a coward for not punching first in a bar fight. He'd smiled bloodshot that night. Officer Ryan Beckett. My brother. The air went still. My pulse wasn't fast, it was heavy. Like every beat was hammering the truth deeper into me. I picked up the strip. My hands didn't shake. My voice did when I called her. Becca. Kyle. You're back. Hospital noise in the background, beeping monitors, clipped voices, metal on metal. Yeah. Mission scrubbed. You on call? A pause long enough to taste the lie. Trauma Bay. Stabbing. I can talk later. I'm looking at county fair photo booth pictures, I said. At our cabin. The silence this time was longer. Thicker. That's not. I know his jaw, Becca. Her voice shrank a notch. Kyle. Don't do this at work. I'm not the one who did this at work. She exhaled sharply. We'll talk later. No, I said, calm in a way that scared even me. We'll talk now. But the line was already dead. I set the phone down next to the strip and stared at that last frame until the sunlight shifted. In the living room, a red plastic truck sat half under the couch. Ethan's. 3 years old. Sticky hands, big eyes, the only thing that made deployments feel longer. I picked it up, ran my thumb over the worn sticker on the side. Daddy's home, I said to no one. The words hung in the air like they were waiting for someone to contradict them. Ryan called before I could decide what to do with the photo strip. No text. Just his name is lighting up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. Yeah. Little brother. His tone carried that fake warmth cops put on before they deliver bad news. Don't call me that. He exhaled through the line. We need to talk. In person. No scenes. You've been making plenty of scenes for 5 years, I said. Guess you want the next one in private? You were never around, Kyle, he said, voice getting that clipped patrol cadence. You left her alone. And you were right there to keep her company. What a hero. His pause was just long enough for me to imagine him clenching his jaw. Meet me at Dad's place. We'll keep this family business. Family business. Like he hadn't already burned the whole thing down. I'm good, I said. You want to talk? We'll do it where there's a record. He didn't like that. Kyle, don't make this worse. You've done that just fine without me. I hung up. 15 minutes later, I heard tires crunch on the gravel outside the cabin. Not Ryan's patrol SUV, this was a silver sedan. Becca's. She stepped inside in her scrubs, hair pulled back tight, surgical cap still on. The faint smell of antiseptic clung to her, mixing with the same perfume I'd smelled when I walked in earlier. Her eyes landed on the photo strip on the counter and she froze. Kyle, she started. What is he to you? I asked, my voice steady but not soft. Backup plan? Better match? Or was he always the first choice? Her chin lifted, surgeon's posture, the kind of control you need when a life's bleeding out in front of you. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. She glanced at the photo strip, then back at me. I'm not going to stand here and beg. You chose deployments over a marriage. I chose to keep other people's husbands alive, I said. You chose mine. Her nostrils flared. Ethan is yours. No one's taking him from you. The way she said it, clipped, rehearsed, made something in my gut twist. Why would you say it like that? She blinked. Like what? Like you've been coached. Like you've already sat with someone who told you exactly what words to use in court. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't answer. I stepped toward her, slowly. How long? She hesitated, then said, It started after your second deployment. That was 5 years ago. Her eyes flickered just once. She knew I'd done the math. We'd been married 6. I let the silence do the work. She finally looked away. That's all I need, I said, turning toward the door. Kyle, she took a step after me. We can fix. I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. You can't fix something you've been dismantling for half a decade. Her eyes glistened, but her hands stayed steady, a surgeon's curse. She walked past me, took the photo strip from the counter, and slid it into her pocket like evidence. Then she left without another word. The sound of her car fading down the gravel road was the only thing I heard for a long time. You can take the ranger out of the field, but you don't take recon out of him. If I were going to war on my own soil, I'd start the same way I always did overseas. Surveillance first, then plan the strike. The cabin was quiet now. Too quiet. I moved through each room slowly, eyes scanning for anything out of place. On the surface, it all looked untouched. Same rug, same pictures on the wall, same faint smell of wood smoke in the beams. But the details were wrong. The Wi-Fi router had been unplugged and plugged back in recently. The LED blink pattern told me it had been reset. My old Wise indoor cam was offline, and when I tried the app, the password didn't work. Not hacked. Changed. That was amateur hour. I had backups. Out back, near the stacked firewood, I spotted something in the dirt. A teddy bear. Weathered. Face half ground into the mud. Ethan's. The one Becca swore had gone missing months ago. I picked it up and felt something hard under the stuffing. No batteries. No music box. Camera lens. I pulled my pocket knife and sliced along the seam. Inside, buried in the polyester fluff, was a micro nanny cam. The kind you buy online for monitoring babysitters, or spying on your husband's cabin. I carried it inside, plugged it into my field charger, and popped the micro SD card. It powered right up, no password. The first video loaded instantly. And there it was. Ryan, in uniform pants and a t-shirt, is sitting on my couch. Ethan is on his knee, laughing. Becca is next to him, leaning into his shoulder. The fire in the hearth was throwing gold across all three of them like it was a damn Christmas card. Then Becca's voice, casual. He looks like you when he smiles. Ryan, don't. Becca, it's true. Ryan, stop saying it out loud. My hand stayed still, but my vision tunneled in on those words until the edges of the screen blurred. The conversation rolled on. Ryan again, quieter this time. I filed the petition draft. If Kyle gets weird, we get out ahead of it. Becca, don't say that here. I stopped the clip. 2 truths just dropped into my lap. Ryan believed Ethan was his, and from the way Becca didn't argue, she did too. He'd already prepared a preemptive restraining order, ready to make me look like the threat before I even knew there was a fight. I leaned back in the chair and let that sink in. In Ranger School they tell you patience is a weapon. I'd just been handed my first loaded magazine. I copied the files to a secure drive and locked it in my go bag. Then I walked the perimeter of the cabin, slow and methodical, looking for any other gifts they might have left me. By the time I got back inside, the bear's black plastic eyes were staring at me from the counter. I almost laughed. A ranger is outsmarted by a stuffed toy. Not today. You don't tail a surgeon the way you tail a suspect on the street. You audit them. Hospitals are fortresses. Cameras in every hallway, badge swipes on every restricted door, timestamps on every action in an electronic medical record. People think a surgeon can just vanish for hours on end. The truth? The system logs every breath they take. Unless, of course, they've figured out how to fake the breathing. I called Maya first. We'd shared a hooch in Kandahar, taken fire on the same resupply run, and promised to never owe each other a favor unless it was life or death. She'd gone civvy and now ran compliance audits for a healthcare nonprofit. If anyone could pull a string without leaving fingerprints, it was her. Maya, hypothetically, I said, if a trauma surgeon logs consecutive overnights for 5 years, could you tell if some of those were, let's say, creative? She snorted. Hypothetically, yes. We'd see badge swipes, EMR logins, and camera timestamps. Why? Because hypothetically, those overnights might have been at my family cabin. With my brother. Her voice sharpened. Becca? Yeah. Send me her full name, hospital, and any dates you think she was on the lake instead of in the ER. I read them off all the way back to my second deployment. Maya didn't waste breath on sympathy. I'll get you preliminary polls. But listen, if she's been gaming the system, there's a trail. Find it. A beat of silence. Kyle, you want her to lose her job? I let that sit. I want the truth in writing. Maya called back that evening. I've got your match and I've got a lead. There's a forensic data fellow at the state university who contracts with hospital boards. Young, scary, smart. She eats liars for breakfast. What's her name? She hesitated just long enough for me to know the answer would hit somewhere deeper than my ears. Elena Hart. The name was a jolt. I hadn't heard it in over a decade, but I could still see her, barefoot on rain-slick pavement, hair stuck to her cheek, laughing against my mouth outside a dorm vending machine. We'd had one night, no promises, and then life scattered us like brass on a range. You know her? Maya asked. Once, I said. A long time ago. Then you'll like this, she's the best at what she does. When Elena picked up, her voice was richer, smoother, but still had that quicksilver energy under it. Sergeant Beckett, she said like she was rolling the syllables around. You remember me? I remember your hand on a vending machine and your boots dripping rain in my dorm hallway, she said, amused. Then her tone shifted. Maya says you need help. I do. I've got a wife who's a trauma surgeon, a brother who's a cop, and a nanny cam full of them playing house in my cabin. I think she's been falsifying on-call hours. Send me everything you have, she said, no hesitation. You don't want to know the why? I just did. Now I need the receipts. I sent the nanny cam clips, the dates, and the hospital info. It took her less than 10 minutes to reply. Okay, she said, voice cool and precise. I'll cross-reference her badge logs with EMR entries and security footage. If she charted while not on site, or had someone else badge in for her, it'll glow in neon. Why are you helping me, Elena? Because once upon a time you were kind in a world that wasn't. And because you're not the first soldier to come back to a home that's been under siege in your absence. Her words landed in that deep place where anger and something softer both live. I cleared my throat. How long will it take? I'll have your preliminary by morning, she said. And Kyle? Don't do anything stupid until you read it. I didn't go to the cabin for this. I went to Dad's place, neutral ground. Ryan would feel safer there, and that's exactly what I wanted. People talk more when they think they're in control. He showed up in his patrol SUV, off-duty but still in uniform pants and boots. The badge on his belt caught the porch light like it was daring me to touch it. He stepped out slow, scanning the yard the way a cop scans a call scene, like he owned it. Phone, he said as soon as he got close. On the table. I placed mine down between us. He did the same. We both kept our watches, the thing most people forget, also records. He sat across from me, leaning back like he was the one interviewing. You're going to say some awful things, Kyle. I'm telling you now, don't. I stared at him. 5 years. His jaw ticked. You were never here. You were too here. He spread his hands, a cop's calm-down gesture. It started after your second deployment. She was alone. I drove her to appointments, helped with Ethan. Appointments? I repeated, flat as gravel. His face hardened. You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I took what you didn't value. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because if I didn't, my hands would do something that would look real bad on paper. I valued her so much, I said. I thought she was unbreakable. He leaned forward, voice low. You gonna swing at a cop in our old man's living room, Sarge? I kept my eyes on him. No. I'm going to document you. Then I'm going to dismantle you. That got him. His eyes flickered, not with fear, not yet, but with the realization that I wasn't going to play this his way. You think you're the only one who knows how to make a case? He said. I filed something, just in case you come unglued. I found your rehearsal, I said. On the nanny cam. Real thoughtful, practicing how you'll paint me as a threat before I've even raised my voice. He froze just for a breath. That's not admissible. Maybe not, I said. But in IA? In family court? In the court of public opinion? It's gold. Ryan's lips pressed into a thin line. This can be clean if you let it. You only use the word clean when you're standing in filth. We sat there a full 10 seconds in silence. It wasn't awkward. It was war. Finally he pushed back from the table, grabbed his phone and stood. "I'll see you around." "You will," I said. "But not the way you want." Elena's email hit my inbox at 6:10. I read it twice before I even took a sip of coffee. Badge log versus EMR Delta, Dr. Rebecca Collins. Repeated EMR activity log between 0200 to 0500 hours on dates her badge was not inside the facility. Overlaps with county fair weekends, cabin Wi-Fi logins and credit card charges in your joint account. Detected 2 instances of proxy badge use. Another staffer badged into restricted units using her credentials. Pulling security footage for those windows now. Underneath, Elena had added a line that hit harder than the data. Pediatric records list uncle as authorized pickup 3 separate times while you were deployed. She didn't need to spell it out. Paternity disputes are legal landmines. This wasn't a question anymore, it was a fact waiting to be confirmed or detonated. I called Becca immediately. She picked up on the second ring. "We're doing a DNA test," I said. Her tone was sharp, defensive. "No. Then I'm filing for it." "You're not dragging Ethan through this," she snapped. "You dragged him through it the moment you made his life a lie." Her voice went icy. "If you try to take him, I will bury you." "I'm not taking him," I said. "I'm taking the truth." She hung up. Maya called an hour later with a clinic address that could do the test quietly. "Neutral site," she said. "Paper trail you can use." Ryan showed up at the appointment with a lawyer in tow. Becca came straight from the hospital, still in her scrubs. No eye contact with me. No touch for Ethan. Just signing forms like they were part of a discharge packet. The swab took 30 seconds. The silence in the room weighed more than the walls. 3 days later the clinic called me in person. Not a voicemail, not an email. That was enough to tell me. "Sergeant Beckett," the text said, voice careful, "the probability of paternity is 0%. The words didn't drop. They detonated. For a moment I wasn't in the clinic, I was in a dusty street overseas, hearing the sharp crump of a mortar round too close to duck. When the ringing in my ears faded, I walked out to the parking lot. Ryan was leaning on his cruiser, arms crossed. Becca sat in her car, gripping the wheel like it might steer her away from the truth. I stopped a few feet from him. "He calls me Dad." Ryan's jaw flexed. "I told you not to do this." Becca opened her door. "He needs stability." "Stability," I said, "doesn't come from sleeping with a cop behind your husband's back." Ryan stepped forward. "Watch it." "No," I said. "You watch this." I pulled up Elena's audit overlay on my phone. Badge logs missing EMR edits at 3 a.m., cabin Wi-Fi joins tag Becca's iPhone and Ryan Patrol. The picture painted itself. Ryan's lawyer put a hand on his arm. "Officer Beckett, we should go." Ryan shook him off, glaring at me. "You think this is over?" "No," I said. "It's just getting started." The DNA result should have been the sharpest blade in the drawer. But Elena had one more hidden under her sleeve. She called the next morning. "Kyle, I was wrapping the hospital audit and found something you need to see." I pulled over on the side of the road. "Go." "There are 2 narcotic dispenses under Becca's login, both during nights you were home on leave. Off-label sedatives. The logs show the prescriptions were deleted a day later. And both orders triggered a 2-factor push to your phone at 2:17. I froze. "My phone?" "Yes." "Meaning someone either had access to your device or was close enough to accept the push without you knowing." I didn't have to think hard. There was one night in particular, midwinter, couched by the fire, no alcohol, no pills, and yet I'd blacked out so deep it felt like my body had been put in storage. I'd woken up groggy, head pounding, Becca making breakfast like nothing was wrong. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. She drugged me. Elena was quiet for a moment. Or someone used her login to do it. But given the rest of the pattern. "No," I said, heat creeping into my voice. "This was her." "Kyle?" "I'm fine, elite." "Send me the logs." "Already in your inbox." I pulled into the cabin driveway and sat there, staring at the trees. In Ranger School, they tell you the most dangerous enemy is the one you let get close enough to put a knife in your ribs without you seeing it. I'd let Becca stand in my blind spot for 6 years. But that was over now. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. This was warfare. I opened my laptop and started building what Elena called the board. Every file, every clip, every timestamp, every receipt. A Ranger's op plan in civilian form. Top column. Objective, dismantle Ryan and Becca without lifting a fist. Under it, IA complaint prep. Hospital credentialing packet. Paternity ruling and custody petition. Public narrative control. Precision. Patience. Predation. I invited them both to the cabin under the pretense of talking about Ethan. Ryan replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Becca simply said fine. I cooked the way I always do before a fight, not for comfort but for control. Pan-seared ribeye, roasted potatoes, a salad she once swore made her feel human after long shifts. The table was set for 3 adults. In the 4th chair sat a brand new teddy bear, court clean but with a hidden camera winking from its stitched smile. Its older, gutted twin watched from the mantel. The knock came exactly on time. They walked in together. Not touching but close enough that they could have been. Ryan's eyes swept the room. You recording this? Yes, I said without looking up from the steaks. You should too. We ate like strangers. Forks scraping plates, wine poured but barely touched. Every bite was just an act in a play none of us wanted to watch. When the plates were clean I stood. You two can say you're sorry 100 times. It won't glue anything back. Becca put her fork down, spine straight. We can find a way to coexist, Kyle. For Ethan. Ryan's jaw flexed. This doesn't have to get ugly. I pulled my phone from my pocket and placed it on the table, screen up. On it, Elena's forensic audit, the badge logs, EMR gaps, cabin Wi-Fi joins and narcotic dispense anomalies. You're looking at crimes? I said. Not mistakes. Not accidents. Crimes. Ryan leaned back, eyes narrowing. You think this is enough to stick? I know it is. I tapped play. Elena's voice narrated the data in a slow, prosecutorial rhythm. The images shifted. Hospital footage with her badge absent, timestamp overlays, county fair purchases matching cabin camera dates. Then the nanny cam audio, he looks like you when he smiles. Becca's don't. Ryan's it's true. And finally, his casual confession. If Kyle gets weird we get out ahead of it. Becca covered her mouth. Ryan reached for his phone. Don't, I said low. The driveway plate reader you passed logs your badge number. I's going to enjoy that list. You set me up, Ryan said. No, I said meeting his stare. You set me up. I just documented it better. His chair scraped back hard. He took one step toward me, stopped when he saw the small body cam clipped under my shirt button. You think you're the only one who knows how to wear a camera? I asked. He looked at Becca. She looked at me. What happens now? She asked, voice shaking. Consequences, I said. For both of you. The first hit landed at the city council session. On the agenda, routine police business. In reality, internal affairs pulling the pin on a grenade. Ryan sat 3 rows up with his union rep, looking like every off-duty cop who thinks the badge is still armor. I sat further back, flanked by Elena and Maya. We didn't need to speak. The silence between us was charged enough. The IA investigator started clinical. Unauthorized use of credentials. Preemptive petition filing. Misuse of position to influence a potential custody matter. Then they played the nanny cam audio. He looks like you when he smiles. Don't. It's true. Stop saying it out loud. I filed the petition draft. A low ripple moved through the room. Someone near the back hissed. The union rep tried to object to illegally obtained surveillance, but the investigator kept going. While these clips may not be admissible in criminal court, he said, they are highly relevant in determining whether Officer Beckett's conduct meets the department's standards of integrity. That was cop speak for, he's done. Ryan's eyes stayed forward, but the vein in his temple was working overtime. The second hit came at the hospital board. White coats, stiff collars, a smell of stale coffee and old air conditioning. Becca sat with her counsel, hands folded tight in her lap. Elena took the lead, her voice steady, her slides merciless. Here we have Dr. Collins' badge activity on the night of July 14th, absent from the facility. EMR logs show charting of 3 trauma cases during that absence. No delegated authorization noted. Slide change. September 3rd, badge absent, but narcotics dispensed under her login. Sedatives. Subsequently deleted from the system within 24 hours. 2-factor authentication push logged to Sergeant Beckett's device at 2:17. Becca's lawyer tried to interject about possible clerical errors. Elena didn't even look at him. Then we have 2 confirmed instances of proxy badging. Another employee entering restricted surgical areas using Dr. Collins' credentials. This violates both state law and federal hospital security standards. The chair of the board, an older surgeon with ice water eyes, leaned forward. Dr. Collins, did you ever document patient care you did not personally provide? Becca hesitated. I don't recall. Do you recall authorizing sedatives for your husband? My husband, she started. Has the authentication log, Elena said, cutting her off, and a memory of waking up disoriented on nights you charted those dispenses. Elena slid me a note during the recess they did grant here. IA just uncovered 2 domestic disturbance calls to your address during your deployments, reported by a neighbor. Ryan's body cam has 30-minute gaps for both incidents. Both calls were downgraded to resolved, no parties present, without entering the home. I stared at the handwriting. He erased my house, I murmured. Not just yours, she whispered back. They're looking into other calls. By the time we were back in session, the city attorney was opening a wider probe into obstruction and evidence tampering across multiple domestic calls Ryan handled. Mine was just the first domino. Ryan's badge went into a plastic tray before the day was over. Becca was placed on interim suspension, pending a full ethics review. 2 careers. Both are bleeding out on the floor. No tourniquets offered. Family court doesn't look like justice. It looks like a DMV with better chairs and worse steaks. The air is dry, the clock ticks loudly, and the judge stares at you like you're a line item to get through before lunch. I sat on the petitioner's side, my lawyer, barely 30 but sharp enough to cut steel, flipping through a neatly tabbed binder. Ryan wasn't there, his legal mess kept him busy. Becca was. She traded her scrubs for a navy dress, but the tight bun and steady hands screamed surgeon even here. Her lawyer leaned in close, whispering last-minute positioning like it could change the math. The judge started with the facts. Paternity test, 0%. DNA matches, Ryan Beckett, 99.97%. My legal standing as Ethan's father, gone. Becca's counsel went first. He spoke about continuity of care and stability in upbringing, painting me as a devoted parental figure who should remain in Ethan's life, for Ethan's sake. It was a smart pivot because the legal truth was cold. Without my name on that birth certificate, I had no automatic rights. When it was my turn, my lawyer didn't argue paternity. He didn't need to. He argued character. How I've raised Ethan since birth. How I'd been his provider, protector, the constant in a life that was a lie. He didn't shy from naming Becca's deception, 5 years of it, and Ryan's abuse of his position to cover it. The judge listened without expression. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat, but her words carried weight. Sergeant Beckett, the law recognizes you are not the biological father. However, this court also recognizes the bond you have with the child. I am granting you status as a court-approved parental figure under a transitional arrangement, supervised at the recommendation of a counselor, so long as such contact remains in the best interest of the child. Becca's head snapped toward her lawyer. What does that mean? It means, the judge said, Mr. Beckett will not be erased from this child's life without cause. It also means both parties will be monitored for conduct. That includes honesty. I nodded once. I can live with that. Becca finally looked at me. For the first time in months, the arrogance was gone. What I saw instead was something raw. Regret? Maybe. Or maybe just the sting of losing control. When the court adjourned, she approached me in the hallway. I told him you were brave, she said quietly. And good. And busy. I told him you were better than his mother. For a second, I almost believed she meant it. But I've learned the hard way that sincerity from a liar is just another tactic. I stepped back. Be someone he can admire, Becca. That's the only redemption you've got left. I walked away before she could answer. The cabin smelled like pine and rain when I came back. No perfume. No foreign coffee cups in the sink. No stray hair ties on the nightstand. Just mine. The first thing I did was take down the photo strip from the counter. I didn't tear it or burn it. I'm done letting them dictate my rituals. I slipped it into a plain envelope, taped it shut, and tossed it into the storage box that holds my deployment patches, a few old Ranger Challenge coins, and the wedding ring I haven't worn in months. A place for things that no longer serve in the field. The teddy bear cameras stayed where they were. Not because I needed them for evidence anymore, but because I'd decided the woods were entitled to a little paranoia too. The phone buzzed. Elena. Counseling session okay? You need food. I thumbed back. I need quiet. Then I stopped, stared at the screen and typed. But a company without a court voice would be fine. She showed up 40 minutes later with 2 paper bags of takeout and a bottle of water. No wine, no ceremony. Just the kind of presence that doesn't need an agenda. We ate on the floor in front of the fireplace. She sat cross-legged, her hair pulled into a loose knot that kept falling forward when she laughed. She'd brought a stack of papers, class notes, research drafts, that she spread across the rug without asking. The cabin hadn't seen that kind of mess in years. Felt good. "You hate them?" she asked at one point, not looking up from the container she was opening. "I don't have the energy for hate," I said. "Hate's just paying rent to the past." She looked at me then, studying the words. "So what do you have energy for?" I gestured to the case files spread on the table. Writing it down better. And my eyes flicked to hers. Not being a ghost in my own life. A slow smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "That I can help with." We didn't touch that night. She left her hand next to mine on the rug, the space between our fingers lit like a fuse waiting for someone to strike a match. The real damage didn't happen in one explosion. It happened in 100 little implosions over the next 6 weeks. Ryan went first. IA closed their investigation with 3 charges. Obstruction of justice for downgrading 2 domestic disturbance calls at my address. Evidence tampering for altering call logs on multiple unrelated cases. Conduct unbecoming for using his position in a personal custody matter. The union fought to keep him on, but the department brass had seen enough. His badge went into a tray. His service pistol followed. He walked out past the reporters in plain clothes, jaw tight, refusing to answer questions. The DA's office confirmed they were reviewing charges. If they stuck, Ryan wouldn't just lose the badge, he'd pick up a criminal record to match. Becca's fall was slower but no softer. The hospital board's ethics panel finished its review and handed her a consent agreement that stripped her or privileges indefinitely. She'd keep her license but only for outpatient clinic work. No trauma bays, no surgical teams, no high-prestige cases. The off-the-record whispers in the medical community spread fast. In her world, that kind of professional exile was worse than losing the license outright. The DA's office took the narcotics log anomaly seriously, especially once they saw the deleted entries. They stopped short of filing criminal charges, not enough hard proof without a witness willing to testify to the intent, but the shadow of it hung over her. Enough that every future job application would come with a question she couldn't answer cleanly. I didn't celebrate. I boxed up my uniforms, folded them once before storing them. I kept the boots, not for nostalgia but because some things you can still trust to carry you. The divorce was finalized with a clause that locked Ethan's college fund, my money, into a third-party trust. I wouldn't see a cent of it, but I knew where it was going, under his feet, not theirs. One night, Becca left me a voicemail. "He asked for you today," she said softly. "I told him you were brave, and good, and busy. I told him you were better than his mother." I let the message play twice before saving it. Not because I forgave her. Because, for once, she told him the truth. 3 weeks after the dust had settled, I found myself crossing the quad at the state university. I'd been here once before, years back, in a different life. Now I walked slowly, not in uniform, no gear slung across my shoulder. Just a man with a paper cup of coffee he didn't even want, heading toward a brick building with ivy crawling up the side. Elena's office door was propped open with a painted brick. The words "Question Everything" were scrawled across it in chipped black paint. Seemed fitting. She was at the whiteboard, sleeves rolled up, hair pinned back, sketching out something that looked like a digital crime scene for a class. She turned when she heard my boots on the floor. A smile tugged at her mouth before she even said my name. "Sergeant," she said. "Kyle," I corrected. "Kyle," she repeated as if testing the sound. "You look less haunted." "I sleep now," I said. Sometimes without checking the perimeter twice. Her brows lifted. "I'm honored to outrank the mattress." I chuckled. "Not a high bar, but I'll take it." We sat. Her behind the desk, me in a chair that probably belonged to some overworked grad student. We talked about small things first. The weather. Her class load. How she'd been consulting for 3 different hospital boards since our last call. And then we hit the edge of what we hadn't said yet. "You ever wonder," she said, "why some people are questions and some people are answers?" I tilted my head. "Which am I?" She leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You were an answer once. That night years ago. But now, you're a question. The kind I don't mind spending time on." There was nothing left to debate after that. I stood, stepped around the desk, and kissed her, not the desperate kind that takes something but the steady kind that gives it back. When we broke apart, she touched my cheek, eyes holding mine. "I'm not a secret, Kyle. I've had enough of those," I said. "You get daylight." "Deal," she said, smiling against my mouth before she kissed me again. People expect revenge to be loud. Explosions. Shouting. Doors kicked in. But the truth? The most satisfying payback happens in silence. It's a badge landing in a tray with a dull clink. It's a surgeon's hand sitting idle because a board stripped her of the only room she loved working in. It's the way certain names start getting whispered in the hall in the wrong tone, and careers bleed out without anyone firing a shot. Ryan's name will live in IA files and court transcripts now. His badge gone, his reputation shredded, and a DA's file with his face on it waiting to be dusted off if he gets stupid again. Becca will keep wearing a white coat but only in the outer rings, clinic shifts, paperwork, the kind of work that makes ambitious surgeons feel like ghosts of themselves. Ethan's college fund is sealed in trust. No one can touch it but him. And even though the law says I'm not his father, I'll be there in the margins of his life, steady as I can be without stepping into their chaos. Some nights, I stand on the cabin porch and listen to the wind in the pines. I think about all the ground I've covered, jungle trails, desert streets, hospital corridors, courtrooms, and how the most dangerous battlefield turned out to be my own home. I don't miss Becca. I don't miss Ryan. What I do miss is the man I was before I had to turn my own skills against my family. But that's the thing about survival, you don't get to keep the same skin you started in. Inside, Elena's voice drifts from the kitchen. She's at my table, papers spread out, talking about a new data set like it's a sunrise. She's younger than me by enough years that my old ranger buddies would joke, but older than she was that rainy night outside a vending machine when I first kissed her. Now she's a respected professor, the kind of woman who can take apart a database with the same precision I used to clear a room. Come to bed, she calls, amused. In a minute, I answer, watching the trees one last time before turning back inside. The war is over. The case is closed. And for the first time in years, I'm not reconning for threats. I'm walking towards someone worth my daylight.